Welcome to the ThunderCast, your martial athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hugnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. You can follow us on Twitter at ThunderCast_pod and click the links to all of our social media outlets, I guess you want to call it, in the description of all these episodes. Please head over to the YouTube page particularly and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You don't want to miss any of the episodes of Inside the Thunder or any of the special episodes that we put up. Like we just had the one with Ryan Crisp from the athletic department talking about the Fans First initiative, and we're going to touch a little bit on that this week, but that was a really cool, informative video that you would otherwise miss if you're not checking stuff out on the YouTube channel. Russ, the breakdown series continues this week after a 1-week hiatus to recap Sunbelt Media Days. We're going to be talking about the defensive line, and boy, oh boy, I know a lot of folks are excited about this 2023 Herd defensive line. You and I are in that crowd. So we've got all the deets on all the movers and shakers in that position group and all the movement that went along with it. Of course, we're going to take you around the herd and we're going to give you 5 things. But before we get into it, let's get ourselves a quick word from our sponsors at 304carwreck.com. If you've been hurt in a wreck, visit 304carwreck.com on the web or on Facebook. Our roads are full of uninsured drivers. When they hurt you, your insurance company can become their insurance company. Insurance companies take your money every month, but they fight you when it's their turn to pay. Don't be a victim twice. Jason and Matt can't protect you from uninsured drivers, but they can protect you from the insurance companies. Find them at 304carwreck.com. Russ, let's kick this cat off. We've got a lot of information to talk about. There's been a lot of news since we last recorded an episode just in the world of college football. So we won't dive deep into that, but we will touch on it. So let's start it off. Give me 5 things every Herd fan needs to know this week.
All right, 5 things every Herd fan needs to know this week. As always, brought to you by IgniteLink, the Tri-State's premier IT management team. Number 1, Macy Majoy is the SBC representative for NCAA Woman of the Year.
Yeah, that's pretty neat, man. I can't recall a Herd athlete right off the top of my head being nominated or getting the conference nod for something like this. It may have happened in the past, but this seems like one of those things just when you thought Macy had received one of the final few accolades she could receive, here comes this nomination from the Sun Belt for Woman of the Year. And man, that's pretty freaking sweet, man. I didn't really see that on the radar at all, but what a cool honor for her and for the Herd. To go along with that, I got to say this. I know you saw it, but I think it was Paul Swan was talking about it, and he took the picture he put on the tweet was like of her car with the pole vault.
Yeah.
Poles like taped or, hooked to the side of her vehicle. And I just thought that's West Virginia in a nutshell, man. Yeah. I think I mentioned it. That might as well be siding or PVC pipe or anything like that, because that's just a normal day in almost heaven.
in my travels around the territory for my work, that probably would have been maybe top 10 things that I would have saw that I would have went, well, nah, just, oh, you got some poles out there? Yeah, figures.
It makes sense. I mean, why not? Everybody else does. You're going to put you're putting a flagpole up at the house, I guess. So you had to get it home from Lowe's some way. So you might as well just tie it to the side of your car.
I was looking for the red ribbon on the back. That's kind of got to do that.
But a great honor nonetheless for her, man. I wish her all the luck in getting this, because how cool personally would that be? Because you're just thinking, man, I mean, if it were me, I'm just thinking, man, I'm just an athlete. I just, I'm sure she does a lot more that we don't even know about, but it's really cool to see nominations like that come to light. That's so cool for her.
Number 2, Logan Osborne is named to the Warfel trophy watch list.
Yeah. This is a cool one too, because this is not just about what you do on the field. You've usually got to be a high performer anyway to kind of separate yourself a little bit. But the Warfel Trophy is also somebody that is equally, if not more so, involved in their community. And, that's just something we're going to rally around. And does it surprise you one bit that it's a local kid that's
Right.
getting this nod? It's just kind of ingrained in who you are if you're raised around here, that I'm not saying anything against anybody that's not from here, but that's just kind of part of the fabric of who you are, as a West Virginian and as somebody from Cabell County, Putnam County, Kanawha County, Wayne County, that kind of area. That's just something that you're just kind of born into, and you hold that near and dear. So that doesn't surprise me one bit that Logan Osborne is the guy for the Herd to get that nomination. That's really drives some points home about what we're all about here.
Yeah, and those first two things on the list this week, both of them just, I mean, your accolades that you do on the diamond, on the court, on the gridiron, on the track, all that stuff is something. But I think that these two things resonate a lot more to being so just all encompassing of being a student athlete and an individual that I'm sure they are very proud of this, and I couldn't be more proud of them representing the Herd.
Yeah, this is all of the parts of being a student athlete that aren't necessarily the athlete part, because it's the person under the helmet or the person, underneath the jersey. Who is that person and what's important to them? And these folks are proving that it's more than just the fields of competition for them. And I'll never get tired of hearing about that stuff.
Number 3, Owen Porter and Micah Abraham named to the Nagurski Trophy watch list.
Gotta love that. Gotta love top defensive player in the country. Even just making a watch list from our level, as a G5 player, which again is a term that I hate, is that's about as good as it's going to get. You could win these awards, but think about it, man. It took a guy like Randy Moss to win a Biletnikoff Award, and that's a generational, once-in-a-lifetime talent. Now, he could have been a multi-year Biletnikoff Award winner if he was, if his initial plans to be at like Notre Dame or even the backup plan to be at Florida State had panned out. He played there for 2 years or 3 years. He could have potentially been a multi-year Biletnikoff Award winner. And that's not to say that if Marshall wasn't Division I-A at the time, FBS in 96, he wouldn't have won a multi-year award winner also. I'm just saying it's incredibly hard from, a mid-major conference to actually win these awards. So just to be nominated is just great. And then once they start trimming those watch lists down, if you're a semifinalist, finalist, I mean, you got to think, man, this guy's just give him an award because, they're always going to throw up the roadblocks at every turn for guys that come from schools like Marshall. But if you can play, you can play. And the NFL knows that. So it's a great honor for these guys, but I really just hate that everything gets hoarded by these, big conferences. Like, even they got great players, but we got great players too. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I'd like to go back. I have not, and maybe I would, be sadly mistaken, but I'd like to go back and see the last time that someone from a non P5, which I absolutely hate that as much or more than you, and that might be going away very soon, but that a winner of the Nagurski or one of these awards came from a smaller school that is not in these conferences that just get ridiculous money and can do whatever they want with recruiting.
Well, I can remember one that's not that long ago because I just can't think of his name. I'm trying to look it up really quick, but we played them in the bowl game that same year, and it was what was his name, man? Dang. I thought it was. Maybe not. I thought it was the kid from Colorado State that won the Biletnikoff, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe he didn't win it. Never mind. But no, I'm looking on the Biletnikoff list right now, and everybody's a, high major type school. The last person to win it from a mid-major was the year after Moss won it in 98. Troy Edwards won it from Louisiana Tech. So that's just one award, and you're talking about two mid-major guys that won it 97 and 98, and that was before this whole P5 G5 moniker. So I was thinking that the kid from Colorado State won it, and then we played them in the bowl game. I guess he was just a finalist. I know he finished up there, but
Nagurski Award, I've got it up. in the history since '93, the first year that they had it.
Yeah.
2020, which that was a weird year with COVID, a lot of teams sitting out, but Tulsa had a linebacker, Zaven Collins. That's the
Yeah.
only time anybody from a different conference than those big ones that get all the pub.
Yeah. That
Uh,
guy was a beast too. I remember him being at Tulsa. He deserved that award, man, for sure. But you're right, it's an uphill battle, and you don't want to give in and be like, well, we'll just create our own major awards, right? Because then you're just saying, well, we quit, and that's not fair,
right.
So, but still, we all know that the odds are stacked against our guys, and to land two of those guys on a watch list, that's big time stuff. It is. And Owen Porter specifically, you would have to think has if he goes out and has a better season like he's talked about wanting to have. I mean, he told me my goal this year, among many goals, but one of his personal goals, not a team goal, is he wants to break the single season sacks record at Marshall, and he thinks he could have done it last year had he capitalized on the sacks that he missed. He said conservatively, I missed 12 last year, could have been maybe 15, and he's thinking, I can get there this year. I can do that. So that's a lofty goal, man. It really is. And
Because there's a lot of people that have come through these walls that have got some crazy numbers there
yeah.
on defense.
So you think about if Owen sets a single season sack record at Marshall, you're going to be pushing somewhere between like 15 to 20. That's where it's going to end up falling, right? And if you have that, you just can't turn blind eye to that and go, well, that didn't matter. It matters, man. That just matters. So anyway, it's great for those dudes. I mean, honestly, it means nothing in the grand scheme to them of what they are trying to do, because you don't win games on watch lists. It's just everybody likes a little recognition for the game you have, and it's just a little bit for those guys. So I'm happy for them.
Single season sacks is 1987. Cecil Fletcher with 17.
Wow.
So you got to get 17 and a half, which again, that's a lot, and that's right in the middle of your 15 to 20.
Yeah.
But think of the year Jonathan Goddard had in 04. He had 16, and he played out of his mind that entire season. Yeah. And seemingly he missed like 20 others that he was like right there.
Yeah.
But B.J. Cohen in 95 also had 16. And then B.J. Cohen in 97 had 13. And coming in fourth on this top five, Tony Boland, 14, also in 87. So in 87, we had 17 and 14.
31 sacks between two guys. Holy crap. What was in the water in Huntington in 87? Jiminy Christmas. That's a nice little stat, a little feather to put in your cap. 31 sacks between two guys in 1987. No wonder they were so damn dominant that year.
I know what I'm going to talk to Steve Cotton about the next time I see him. I'm going to ask him. Yeah. Dang. All right. So moving on, let's talk number 4 here about fans first games and the overall fans first initiative. We had Ryan Crisp on. But for those who did not watch that special edition of the ThunderCast or haven't watched it yet, we can talk about it right here. So no more exhibition games. The word exhibition for any exhibition home games, those are no longer going to be exhibition games. They're going to be fans first games. KD, what does that mean?
Yeah, it means free admission. It means that there's going to be some sort of giveaway or special that is going to be at that game that you're not going to be able to get anywhere else. And there's going to be, he mentioned like at the volleyball fans first game that they're going to have music playing throughout the entire duration of the match, because that's something that they can't otherwise do during an NCAA sanctioned event. So they're going to make the environment more fun. It's just going to be more lively. They want it to be particularly about the fans. That's why it's called Fans First. So they want to get you there having a great time. And, of course, in hopes that you'll just come back and support the team for the regular season and the postseason. But these are great ideas. I love the fact that the word exhibition as it relates to home games has just been eliminated from the dictionary for Marshall. It is now Fans First. And that's what it's all about. We've recognized as an administration that in order to compete in the ways we want to compete, You're going to have to build fans. And Ryan Chris put it perfectly. He said, we're tired of chasing customers. We don't want to chase customers. We want to build the experience that makes them want to show up and want to be there. And if you focus on the fan, that's what's going to happen, man. If you put your focus on them, then they will show up and support you. This is a great initiative.
The very first event that they had was just on Saturday, and I went to it, and I took my oldest daughter. The two younger kids decided that it was too hot and didn't want to go at the last minute, so my wife stayed home with them. I took my daughter. She had an amazing time.
Mm-hmm.
The athletes that were there could not have been more friendly, not just with the kids, especially the kids, but I mean with everyone. They thanked everyone for coming. Thank you for coming here. Here's guys on the football squad that had been out practicing in the heat. It was hot as hell earlier in the day. They'd been out practicing the whole time, and then they have to go out there and for an hour and a half, sign autographs, just continual people coming and signing autographs till the very end. They were thanking everyone for coming out. They
Mm-hmm.
were, hey, thanks. We hope to do something great for you guys this year. And it wasn't just football. Cross country was doing that. Volleyball was doing that. Both soccer squads were doing that. They had a bingo card for the kids. If you went to every station, you got it stamped. And then at the end, you got a sticker packet of all things Marshall. Just cool all the way around. The guys and girls in our administration in the athletic department worked their tails off as well. They were going around talking to every fan. Um, Grant Traylor came over and kneeled down and talked to Caitlin, who was resting, sitting on the turf, and his main thing was, "Are you having a good time?"
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Oh yeah," and that's all it's about. He could have came over and talked to me about sports, or he could have said, "Am I having a good time?" He came over and talked to her. Sydney Shelton did the same thing, came over and engaged her. It was all about the fans for this event, and it could not have been better, in my opinion.
Yeah, it looked like a good turnout, right? I saw pictures that folks were posting
Mm-hmm.
from the event and a little after, when they just had time to sit down and, go through their camera roll and put stuff up. But the shots were great because it looked like it was really spread out. You had really a nice opportunity to, not just be bunched up, and it being hot anyway. You had room to run and play and have a
Yeah.
good time, and that's what it's all about. So if you didn't catch that episode, that special presentation on the ThunderCast YouTube channel, it's going to stay up.
Mm-hmm.
So Fans First Day at the Joan didn't just come and go, and now Fans First is over. You can go back and watch that episode and get the gist of what all's going on now and moving forward,
Yeah.
because this is not something that's here and gone. This is
Yeah.
the new focus for the athletic department, and there is a lot to take in from that video.
This was the fall event, and it covered those fall sports. It's going to be different for winter. They're going to have all those winter sports, and then they're going to have the spring sports. Everything will be kind of similar to what they did here with this Fans First event. It'll just be in a different avenue. You have to imagine that the Cam and or Gullickson will be uh, somehow. I imagine it'll be in the Cam, but for those winter sports, they'll group them in there, and spring maybe with the baseball softball complex. We talked about that on the episode, but you'll be able to see all of those sports and go engage with the teams. And like you mentioned on that show, putting a face to the name. Sometimes you have seen these people out in town, but you don't really recognize who you're seeing until they're gone, because you've seen them with a helmet on.
Mm-hmm.
That's about all you've seen. So it's just really nice, great event. A lot of thought went into it. Home run from my perspective.
It looked like it was a really great time, like I said. Now, one other thing I've got to mention is that, the focus obviously is on fans as a whole, but in particular, like you kept saying, it was about the younger generation, the kids, right? And
Yep.
to that point, Marshall has rebranded and relaunched the Thundering Herd Kids Club, and
Mm-hmm.
you can go to herdzone.com. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put a link to it in the description, and it'll be down there and moving forward on all of our episodes. I would suggest that if you really want to help build the fandom for another generation in your house, if you're a Herd fan, mom, dad, and you want the kids to really, take hold of the team that you also love, sign them up for the Thundering Herd Kids Club. and get that fandom built at an early age. That all the benefits and things that they're going to get from joining the kids club are listed on the page. So I'll make it easy for you. If you're listening to us again, you can just click the description and there's going to be a link right there. So you're thinking, yeah, I'm going to sign them up for the kids club. You can do it right there from our landing pages. We want everybody. We all know that we need to get younger as a fan base. One of the things that Ryan Cripps mentioned that was looking at the data that they have, and that we are 8%, I think it was 8% older in certain metrics of the older fans, and then like 12% off the mark for younger fans, that younger demographic. And that's a huge gap that we have to make up, right? So we need to engage our students more. That's why the Stampede was created, rebranded, and relaunched. And now the Thundering Herds Kids Club, they're trying to build fans younger so that they're more passionate and ready to be huge herd fans when it's their time to be donors and season ticket holders and all that kind of stuff. It's a great idea and it's a great initiative. And it doesn't take much for us as parents to get involved with that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to sign Cooper up for the Thundering Herds Kids Club. I might as well. We missed the boat for Kyler because, hell, he's 20. But he was at games anyway when he was younger and all the time at tailgates and hanging out and basketball and stuff like that. So we won't miss the boat for Cooper, even though I'm almost 900 miles away. We're going to do our part to get Cooper to fall in love with the herd too.
Yeah, that was my second half that I was going to talk about this thing was the Thundering Herds Kids Club, because it is about fans first.
Yeah.
Real quick, it's $30 per child under the age of 12. Here's what they get. A welcome package with a T-shirt. Most of the times, if you go out and buy a T-shirt, you're looking at $20 to $25 for that anyway, maybe even more. A credential and a lanyard, a birthday card from Marco during their birthday month, a monthly newsletter with activities for Kids Club members to complete, and a special invitation to select games, one per ticketed sport, where they get a behind the scenes at the game day process. So a ticket and a T-shirt is going to cost you more than $30 for them anyway, and this is multiple tickets that you would be getting, one to each ticketed sport. So very, very cool. If you're already getting your kids to be herd fans and bringing them up the right way, this is just a little bit of a money saver and something that they're going to like to do throughout the year anyway.
Yeah, it is. And let me talk about this. So you might go, well, we're already season football ticket holders. It doesn't matter if I get that ticket. That's not just for football. So if you want to go to a basketball game or a women's basketball game or a baseball game or anything like that, that's going to cost you more unless you're season ticket holders to all those sports, which would be cool if you are. But if you're just going to catch a game or two, then you're already saving money. You're going to save money anyway. So you just might as well do it, right? You might as well do it.
And it's not just a ticket to sit in the stands. It's
Sure.
It's an invitation to do other things at that ticketed event. Like it says, behind the game day experience. They're probably going to get to go down on the field or on the court, do something at halftime. It's going to be really cool. Just getting the fans involved and the kids involved. You know what it's like taking a small kid to this. Most of the time, they want to go to the concession stand or they want to get something like that because that's what they think is cool. But they see other kids out there doing something. Hey, can I do that as well?
Yeah.
You go to a basketball game and they have the D team or whatever out at halftime playing. All the kids are like, can I go down there? Mine do anyway.
Yeah.
So this is a way to get them involved. Very, very cool.
Imagine your little leaguer getting to go into the Marshall dugout and just sit and look out onto the field from that perspective. I mean, that's not something that we get to do, like all the time. So maybe ever. So to be able to share that, something like that, if your kid's just big time into baseball, what a cool idea to get them, just to let them, or if they love basketball, maybe they get to go shoot around during a game at halftime or something like that. Who knows? But point being, this is a great way to share your passion with the herd, with your young ones, and help build the fan base for another generation, which is what we all need.
Yeah, and Caitlin, my oldest, is aging out because she turns 12 next month. But my two little ones, I'm signing them up probably today. I don't know. My wife may have already done it, but we're getting the two little ones there. And I know that when those packets come in with activities to do, I mean, they love that stuff.
What you
So
mean, like getting not just what's inside, but actually getting a piece of mail with their name on it delivered to the house?
that, but
That's
when
always cool,
when
man.
it has a coloring sheet for Marco and
Yeah,
things
yeah.
like that, I mean, it's just they eat that stuff up. So I can't wait. Number 5. This is something every Herd fan needs to know, but it's not actually from the athletic department. It's from the ThunderCast. Last year we had ThunderCast live, and it was every home tailgate. Uh, Probably we get over there at least 4 hours before kickoff, but the show, it just depends on a variety of things, how many guests we have, weather, that sort of thing. But we have Thundercast Live coming back this year. All 6 home games will be over in the C lot, most likely the very corner of 4th Avenue, which is the alley behind the scoreboard, and 21st Street, right across from McDonald's.
Mhm.
And we're set up there hours before kickoff. We have a really cool tailgate. We'll be going live. We'll have some guests throughout the year from the athletic department or alumni from the athletic department. And we will have a very good time. We want everybody to come over and say hi.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
No, I was going to say also making a return. I didn't know where you were going with that, but also making a return will be the post game Twitter Spaces, like our version of a call in show for fans.
Mm-hmm.
We got approached about that saying, "Hey, is this all coming back?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course it is, because it was really fun last year and we want to expand on it." So I'm going to let you get back to the pre-game stuff, but I didn't want to forget that while it was in my head, because I do forget quite a bit. But post game Spaces is definitely making a return. So get primed and ready for that somewhere right around 15 to 30 minutes after kickoff, so folks have a chance to get to their cars and start the trip back home. You can we'll have the call-in show or the the live Spaces, so you can get on and talk about the game and what just happened. It's going to be great. So back to the tailgates.
Yeah, so with these tailgates, we want to have a lot of killer food, plenty of drink, and to do that, we bring on sponsors for these Thundercast live broadcasts that we do, and we do a live interview with those individuals, not just about their business, but also about Marshall athletics and the game that day. Those individuals can take those videos that we shoot. It'll be on YouTube up forever, but we carve that out to where, the start and end of that interview is a video by itself. They can have that, put it on their website, use it on social media, do whatever they want to with it. It's theirs. So, kind of like shooting a commercial for their business and talking about themselves and herd sports. Anyone that has looked at these before have seen what we did at the green and white game and what we did last year at our Thundercast Live episodes. We'll also be doing social media shout outs for that business, and we'll be talking about them leading up on the podcast that week when we're doing previewing the game. We'll be talking about what we're having at the tailgate and who's going to be the sponsor. So a lot of opportunity to kind of hyper focus on tri-state area herd fans for your small business, your large business, your medium business, whatever. So anyone that's interested, DM us on Twitter, message us on Facebook, send an email to our email address. However, get a hold of us. Let's talk.
Yep, that's right. It's thundercast.pod@gmail.com, by the way. And there are some discussions going on now, so don't think that we have absolutely no sponsors ready to roll. There are some agreements and some conversations already being had for some of those marquee games. So if you're still on the fence and you're thinking, yeah, I think I'd like to get in on that home opener, that might not be there for you, because there are a few dates already, looking at probably about half the season already, if not a little more, that Russ and I just haven't talked about yet, that are almost off the table. And I know some for sure are basically off the table. So if you're thinking about it, stop thinking, start acting, because we're running out of games already.
Yeah. And that does it for our 5 things every herd fan needs to know. As always, brought to you by one of our many sponsors that we currently have.
Yep.
Ignite Link.
Ignite Link, they are so freaking awesome, man. And Jed and the whole crew at Ignite Link are about to get a whole lot busier with the ThunderCast, because once football season rolls around, you got to remember, Jed powers the thing. Like, he shows up and he's doing the production. He's the guy in the truck.
Yeah.
which is always a cool way to describe Jed. We really love him, and we love Ignite Link for the partnership that they've forged with us and how they've helped us grow and allowed us to do some of the things that we've been able to do. And they're just going to buckle down and get a lot busier here in about a month or so, but I know they're up for it. And I know Jed and those guys and gals love what we do, and we certainly love what they do. So we can't thank them enough. Russ, let's go ahead and go around the herd before we get into this defensive line breakdown.
Yep. Let's start off with cheering. Courtney Sandifer is named the head cheer coach.
I saw that, and I knew that last name was familiar to me, and I thought, I wonder. And then sure enough, she's the wife of Marshall baseball pitching coach. I've lost his first name, but Coach Sandifer. And I thought, I wonder if that was a coincidence, but no, it is not. She comes, or I guess, where was she at? Western Carolina? Is that where? I think that's where he came from. Western Carolina. I think that's where we got him from. But anyway, congratulations to her. That it's just one of many new hires under the Christian Spears administration. So, man, what's left? I mean, it looks like we should be right about rounded out here, but a new addition to the Herd family, one that was already here, just not in a coaching capacity. So, excited to see what the competitive cheer squad does this year. We've made some noise in that arena in years past and a little bit recently. So we'll see if we can crank it up a notch now that we're rocking and rolling in the Sun Belt Conference.
Yeah. Over in men's soccer, we have Kyle Sniatecki is back as an assistant coach. He was here for 2 years, and he has been gone for 1 year. His first year just happened to be when we won the national championship. So a lot of success under him. Good to have him back, and he is always a figurehead here locally in youth soccer.
Yeah. So it's first of all, you bring somebody back that knows what it is and knows that we win here and was a instrumental part of winning that national championship here. And now you bring back a guy that was instrumental in building this dynasty that I'm calling it, and he gets to come back and try to get us over the hump, along with all the guys that we brought in as players and new coaches. We're trying to get back to that national championship game. That's what it's all about at Marshall, right? It's not winning record. It's not, want to win just the conference and we're happy. No. We've got national championship vision and national championship goals. And anything short of that, which really feels good to say, is kind of a letdown because that's how your goals are set out. You want to win it all, right? We talk about that in a lot of sports, but in soccer, we know that it's really an arm's grasp away. So many other things have to go right for other sports to you even be in a position to have an opportunity to play for a national championship. In men's soccer, we know we're one of the nation's best. So bolstering a coaching staff that was already great with someone that was here before that helped lead us to a national championship, buddy, I don't know if it gets much better than that.
And what does Grassy say? What's the team motto? All or nothing.
All or nothing, right? And we live that. This team lives that. This program lives that. And it doesn't mean that they're not trying to also win the Sun Belt Conference. They're not also trying to dismantle a really great Kentucky team, right? They want to do those things on a microcosmic level, but it's all or nothing. You're right. It's championship or bust, and I love that mentality.
Also in men's soccer, they have their first. Now, we have to still call it an exhibition because it's not a home game, but they're going to be at Michigan for an exhibition game on August the 13th at 11 a.m.
Yeah.
So that'll hopefully be on ESPN Plus. I haven't seen it that it's confirmed to be on there, but as it gets a little closer, obviously we'll be reminding everyone on social media to tune in if it is.
So you know what it means with these fans' first games that are coming, and we're seeing away exhibition games showing up on the schedule. It means it's about time to start giving away some tickets, Russ, because that means regular season is right around the corner. And I don't know, for all of you newcomers that have found the ThunderCast since the end of athletic competitions last year up until now, I'm not sure you're aware that for every ticketed sport at Marshall, the ThunderCast has season tickets, and we give away our tickets to every home game and match on the schedule for every sport. So it's really easy to win those. All you got to do is be paying attention to either the Facebook post, or maybe this year we'll work in Instagram a little bit, or the Twitter post, and you just either got to like or retweet or whatever. And if we choose you, I guess we got to get this out now, because we ran into this several times last year. Remember, we would choose a winner and it would be 3, 4, 5 hours and we would never hear from anybody and it would get really close to kickoff time. So here's how it's going to work. We're going to choose a winner and we're going to DM you. We're going to, Russell will try to get a hold of you on Facebook or IG, however you win that week's drawing. And you're going to have about 20 minutes to respond to us and say, yes, I can go to the game, or no, I can't. And if you don't respond with a confirm that yes, we're just going to have to choose another winner, because for us, our tickets have to go to use. We want Herd fans in the seats. We want you to win them, but if you can't get back to us in a timely fashion, we want to get them to people who will go to the game and will be in those seats and will be there to cheer on the Herd. All we ask in return is that you take a photo of yourself, a selfie at the game in our seats, and post it and tag us on social media so people can see that folks actually win our tickets and actually go to these games. That's it. It's that easy.
Yeah, and we will let you know when we are going to be doing these drawings for these ticket giveaways so you can kind of pay attention. If you're somebody that's not going to have Twitter or Facebook up because of work and you would rather send and after you've done the requirement that we do and say, hey, during that time of the drawing, it would be best if I got a text,
Sure.
I'm fine with that. We'll just text you and say, hey, you won.
But you also have, it's not going to be game day.
Right.
It'll be like at least the day before or 2 days before. In the case of football, you're looking at a Saturday kickoff. We're probably going to run a ticket giveaway on like Monday or Tuesday. So you'll know well in advance if you can make it or not. So anyway,
every now and then we'll have a, have to do it the day of or the day before or something. But we, just like you said, we want to make sure that fans get to use these tickets. So
that's what it's all about.
All right, the cross country fall schedule is out. There's not a lot of meets or events for that. September the 15th, though, is the Herd Invitational right here in Huntington. So I think, what was it, 4, and then
it's only like 4 or 5 events, and then the SBC championships, and then the NCAA. So remember, this is just the fall schedule. There'll be a spring schedule too, but how cool is it, just to get a home event back on the schedule for us to showcase cross country in the Mountain State in the fall? How like serene and scenic potentially could that event be? That's pretty neat.
Women's soccer, they had an exhibition match. Again, it was away at Western Carolina, so it was an exhibition, not fans first. There is never scores from these, as we have been told. We famously kept trying to get that information in the spring, and they just don't. They don't even really keep score, I guess. They do have a fans first game coming up, and that is Wednesday right here at the Vet, August the 9th at 6 p.m. So free soccer. Take your kids. Go watch the Herd soccer program play Cincinnati, and then they are at Kentucky on August the 12th at 7:30 p.m. Again, an away exhibition.
Yeah. Now, no mention of what the giveaway or the special or whatever the item or whatever they're doing that's going to be exclusive to that fans first game yet, but you can count on it via the words of Ryan Crisp that there will be something there that's only available at that fans first game and nowhere else. So if you're looking for something to do in Huntington on a Wednesday, hey, nothing beats a fans first game at the Vet.
Over in baseball, Blair Everhart joins the staff as an assistant coach.
Yeah, didn't he work up in Akron with Donnelly, and now we're basically stealing the entire Akron coaching staff. And like you said, I believe on an earlier episode, I don't know much about Akron baseball, but I don't really care or something to that degree.
Yeah. I mean, I feel for them. I do. They're in a bad situation, as we had covered before. They don't have scholarships. It's all kind of self-funded. But, I mean, we took their head coach, and then they got a new head coach, and then we took him, and then we took his assistant. So,
yeah. But he was with Beals up at Ohio State for a number of years too. So the continuity is there. It's not just like we're targeting Akron to take their coaches.
Yeah.
Donnelly was here forever, and he's a Marshall staple, and he belongs here. He belongs in Huntington.
Mm-hmm.
But, this is Coach Beals going out and getting his guys and reuniting his successful coaching staff at Ohio State and tried to make something special at Marshall. And this is just the next piece of that puzzle, right? So you got to love it.
And also on that episode, remember what Ryan said about the baseball field, possibly turf going down next month, and they'll
Yeah.
already be out. It's getting close, guys. It's getting close.
Yeah, more than once he said it's about 80% done.
Mm-hmm.
And, you got to think that after the playing surface goes down, that's the meat and potatoes, right? Because then you can utilize it.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is just aesthetics,
Yeah.
because functionally you'll have a field that you can use. Everything else is just the design phase and or not the design phase, the what do you call it? The finishing touches, making it pretty.
Well,
But
we call
along
it.
but along with that, hold on. But along with that, Herd Bricks. So herdbricks.com, you can still get your bricks for the facade. We know this is going to go on for a while, but it does us good to keep mentioning that to people time and time again because I forget about it. I still haven't gotten my brick, but it's on the radar. So I'm sure a lot of folks are in that same wheelhouse. So we're just going to keep talking about it. Just bring it up. Herdbricks.com. You can still get your bricks for the facade. If we're 20% away, some of that 20% is the bricks, man.
Yeah, it is, and we're going to see, all the seats go down. That'll be kind of last. We'll see, all the signage and stuff go up. That'll be last. But they need to get the playing surface ready so they can start utilizing it, like you said.
Yeah.
Still on target, and maybe even ahead of target.
Maybe
And
ahead. Yeah.
I'll probably know a little bit more over the next couple of days and everything. Just not sure what I can share, but. Also, we have football camp is underway. That started Wednesday of last week, so they've got close to a week in already, and it's here. We're under 4 weeks away from that first game. Everything just feels real now. We had the fans' first day, and we're talking tailgating plans and all that. It's here, man.
Is it starting to get a little too real for you at this point?
It's here.
Yeah, it is here. It's cool. Hey, you know what? And we've talked about this so much about I just got to circle back to baseball real quick. We've talked about so much about this video board that we are so famously watching get assembled at the Joan. And I know some of you folks are like, hey, football season's less than a month away. What the heck's going on with this? It's close. It's like really close. So it'll be up and fully operational and functional before the first game. Don't be worrying. But what I wanted to say before you jump in and talk about that is don't forget we're also getting new boards at our diamonds too. So this is not just football only. We're getting some new boards at our diamonds. We talked about that last year. And soccer. That's right. And soccer. So it's going to be a very, very enhanced experience for you, not only at the Joan, but also at the Vet and the Dot and the Jack.
I have the exact date that the video board will be completed, and I'm not trying to be one of those. I can't tell you guys, but it will be in plenty of time before, and we should have some video and photos official from the athletic department the day that it gets done, but it's close. It is real close.
I would hope so. I would think that they have something in their hip pocket about, I could foresee a video that's unleashed on the Herd fandom or the Herd universe with some of the new aspects and some of the new graphics and how it's going to look. I mean, this is going to be a big deal because a lot of folks have been anxiously awaiting that for a number of years. And now that we've just been constantly talking about it for a year, and then when you see the big hole in the end zone for a while, and now things getting pieced in, this is going to be an unveiling. You can't just take a photo and put it up there. This is going to be a video unveiling, no doubt, in my mind.
Yeah, and it's close. It's real close. All right, so that does it for Around the Herd, but we've got a little thing called Around the Sun Belt that I think that we should talk about because we've had some things. Do you have something else for Around the Herd before
Two things
okay.
real quick. Baseball commit over the week or since the last episode.
Yeah.
AJ McCanninch comes to the Herd as a 2024 pitcher, and we picked up a football commit as well in the class of 2024, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, Malik Caswell, free safety, comes to the Herd from, I think, Georgia, Stockbridge, Georgia. So both Both recruiting classes are continuing to grow, and actually, Greg Beals tweeted that the other day, a very cryptic. I think McCanich was one of the two, or maybe more, but he tweeted, "They are coming to the herd." Usually, he tweets, "He is coming to the herd." Just no info, just that same tweet and a buffalo running. This time, he tweeted, "They are coming to the herd," with the GIF posted twice of the buffalo running. So I've only been able to find one. I think McCanich is one of those guys. I haven't figured out who the other one is yet, but the baseball recruiting class continues to grow, as does the 2024 football recruiting class. Now, SBC time.
Yeah, so we had a lot of stuff in college football. Dominoes are starting to fall again, so it's going to affect us in the SBC Sunbelt. So we need to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Pac-12 looks like well, they're now the Pac-4, right?
Yeah, it ain't even on life support to me at this point. I don't know what's going to happen. If you held me against the wall and said make a prognostication, it seems to me that like Oregon State and Washington State will try to end up somewhere like a Mountain West type deal. I don't know. And maybe Cal and Stanford choose to go independent because they just have the ability to do that. I don't know. But with the pressure that's coming from Apple, Apple was big in on that Pac-12 media deal that got turned down. They may keep all four of those teams together to keep the Pac name and then just bring in the best that they can find from the Mountain West to create a conference and just maintain that Pac-12 name or Pac-10 or whatever they want to go to. But you're right, man. Massive dominoes. How many in your life? Not even up maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, would you have thought we would have seen the death of the Pac whatever conference, one of the most championship laden conferences ever? 100 years of tradition gone in an afternoon.
Storied history with the Rose Bowl and all that.
Yeah.
And this was, one of the things that was holding all this up was the Rose Bowl did not want to, until it was contractually finished, or up for renewal, get in on the CFP. They wanted to keep it that tradition, Big Ten versus the Pac-10, and now Big Ten versus Pac-12. But they now were they had no choice. They got in on it, and people just started leaping. And I have heard that there was a meeting today on Monday that those Pac-4 teams are meeting with the Mount West. There's 12 teams there. They're talking about some sort of merger, either all or partial. And then they were going to talk tomorrow or maybe even later today about Apple, a TV deal, and random teams from like the AAC conference or something. So,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. No matter what, the dominoes, the way they fall, is going to affect some of these teams if they leave conferences they're in right now to go to the Pac-12 or whatever it's going to be called. That could be ripe that the Sun Belt brings somebody in.
Well, yeah, you've got to speculate that, right? Because you can't just go, no, we're happy. And I think there's far too many Sunbelt fans that go, oh, no, we're far too happy. Man, you can't say that at this stage. We are in a great spot, and you can you have the luxury now to be choosy, right?
Mm-hmm.
If there are a lot of teams out there and you just want to bring in two, then you can be choosy about who you want to bring in. But I don't think that you can just turn a blind eye and go, we're not doing anything, because all these teams want to pretend like they're a unified front, right? But you can't tell me if things just starts to go haywire and the ACC begins to collapse and is in a same situation that the West Coast Conference, the Pac-4 right now is in, and the ACC starts to rebuild with whoever they can get, the best teams from the East Coast. And some of those are Sunbelt teams. This buddy stuff that you're hearing right now, that's going to dissolve in an instant when they think, well, we can go to the ACC. We're going. Because you would honestly be a fool to not do that, right? There is nothing wrong, and I'm really happy at the Sunbelt East Division. I love this division, and I think it's great. And I'm not saying that we should leave it. I'm just saying, like, if an opportunity exists for you to align yourself with, even if you want to call them leftovers, that's not a great term, but teams like Wake Forest and NC State and Duke, for crying out loud, Pittsburgh, you're going to do that, right? Because inevitably your revenue share is going to go up versus what you're going to make in the Sun Belt. It just is. It's still very regionally friendly. And I think that would drive a lot of excitement for your fans. So it's just way too early to say we're not doing anything because we might not have a say in it, right?
Yeah, I think that is more of a, I don't want to say pipe dream, but
Of
something
course, it's a
that,
pipe dream. I'm just
well,
saying that that's
no,
strictly speculative.
I don't mean about us joining the ACC. I mean about the ACC dissolving, because it is not set up the same way as the Pac-12 situation, where Pac-12 had a TV deal that was expiring and they had to renegotiate, and some of the teams were holding out to the very last minute and then said, "Hey, I'm sorry, I got a better deal over here. We're just going to go." And then boom, 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 a lot of things fell.
Yeah.
The ACC, with their grant of rights, the conference as a whole has the media. It's not the individual teams. The individual teams get their pay out of that, but because it goes through 2036, they have so high of a payout to be able to break that grant of rights that, I mean, it's like $300 million or something like that. So we're in
I
a
agree.
drastically different space, to where I think that what we're looking at right now is whatever happens with the Pac and the Mount West Conference and any AAC teams that have been wanting to go into the Pac conference where these other teams are leaving and creating a void, looking at teams like SMU,
Yeah.
Memphis, some of these teams, whatever that conference looks like, we're looking at the AAC is now going to be, what do we do now?
Yeah.
It's already Conference USA previous, and that is going to mean that it's going to trigger to where the ESPN says, "Hey, we're renegotiating as the clause in the contract states," and now they're going to be making less money. So whatever's left of that conference, it might be that the Sun Belt gets to expand, choosing carefully someone that fits the mold of what we're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me circle back around, right? I'm not saying that these ACC is going to collapse, but we've just seen 100-year-old conference vanish in a
Right.
weekend.
Right.
So obviously nothing is out of the realm of possibility. Now, is what you're talking about far more likely? Yeah, of course it is. But I see more of a scenario. If you're going to go rebuild a conference of 16 or 12 or whatever in the Pac-12, you're not going to take the entire Mountain West. You're not going to do that. You're going to take the four from the Pac. You're going to take the next 4 or 6 from the Mountain West that compete the way you want them to compete, and then you're probably going to come after that SMU type thing and those teams that are the top-ish tier of the American. That's probably what you're going to do. So it's going to be really, really interesting. It's really going to be something to watch happen. All these schools, number one, we all of us, American teams, Sun Belt, Conference USA, MAC, Mountain West, thinking that there is a legitimate pecking order of these conferences is nearly laughable because we're all the same school. We're all at the same level. If you end up in this conference versus that conference, it can help you a little bit, but ideally, man, you're not going from the American to the Sun Belt is not going from the American to the Big Ten. It's not. So what you should be concerned with is what the Sun Belt got right. Regional rivalries, smaller footprint, fan-friendly atmosphere. That's what you should be targeting, right? And if that fits you in the American, stay in the American with like-minded schools that can provide that for their team or their fans too. If it fits you better to do that in the Sun Belt, you better do that in the Sun Belt because ultimately that's going to lead to success for you. The problem lies in, like I said before, we can be picky. We can be picky. Is anybody going to leave what we have in the Sun Belt to go to the American? I don't know. I don't think Marshall would. I don't think.
If they do, I think that they're just totally, fans are speculating things like that because they're assuming that media deal is
Yeah,
going
the
to
money's
remain the
not going
same.
to stay the same.
It's
It's
not
not.
going to stay the same. And it's already being split 14 ways now instead of 11. So that individual team payout is drastically different. There's also rumors and possibly even confirmation somewhere that I don't have that says those 6 Conference USA teams that came in are going to have a lesser share than the
Yeah, of course. Just like we have.
than the
Just
8
like we have.
teams that. But the renegotiation clause. I mean, you can't say that they're going to say
That's
ESPN.
cool. It's cool. You
Yeah,
keep it.
all these big time teams left. We'll just
Mm-mm.
keep it the same way. I just cannot see any way that happens. They're going to renegotiate, and I think that it'll be a lot closer money wise that the Sun Belt currently has, and the Sun Belt then is in a much better situation than them for growing as
Yeah.
far as their media deals.
Yeah, we could go on this topic for another hour,
Yeah,
and because
sure.
I love talking about realignment and scenarios and what would be cool and everything. And but honestly, it's best for us just to sit back and watch more moves get made right now because we don't know what's going to happen. There are still other things that need to iron out. So
I would say the next 2 weeks, you're going to see something happen with the Pac-12, maybe even
yeah,
this
I would
week.
say it's before that. Yeah.
Yeah, and whatever happens with that is going to dictate what happens more and more. But anyway, like you said, no need to just keep talking because we could talk forever, and a lot of it's speculation until we know what happens these next few days.
Yeah, let me close out on this before we go to the position breakdown. Ultimately, I feel right now my gut tells me that there's going to be roughly like a bottom 4th or 3rd of the Mountain West that's looking for a home, and then there's going to be a bottom 2/3 or 3/4 ish of the American that is remaining in the old American. And at that point, what do you do? What do you do? Do you start looking at regionality like you should be doing, or are you going to try to continue to say, oh, no, 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 we're superior to you because we are in the American and you are not? That I don't think is a long-term recipe for success. At this level, the money's just not, it's just not the same. So it's going to all be renegotiated. So, the smart money is on patience right now and just seeing what you can ultimately come out with. But I think the Sun Belt of all is in the best spot, to build and strengthen and also remain relatively small. You don't need to go farther into Texas and the west part of Texas. And you can build what you need right there in Tennessee, North Carolina, Alabama, right already in the foothold. It may already be there for us to, strengthen. All right, Russ. Excellent speculation. Maybe we ought to work on something with some of our conference mates and try to get a roundtable going on or something like that, because, man, that could be a fun discussion. Anyway, the breakdown series has returned this week, and we're talking about the defensive line. Russ, real quick before I get into all this movement, defensive line position group, where does that rank for you? Top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 positions that you're excited about this season?
Probably top 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't definitely top 3, but it is up there, and it's due to some returning players that we'll be talking about, but just the absolute depth and size and production that we expect. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be an exciting unit, man, to talk about and to watch play because they wrecked shop last year. I mean, they absolutely wrecked shop game in and game out last year. And a lot of that returns. We did lose some, but we'll talk about all that. Defensive line breakdown coached by Herd all-time great Ralph Street. 3rd season with the Herd. Let me ask you this, man. How can we get Ralph Street on the ballot for the Herd Hall of Fame? Because I know largely this is a athletic achievement accolade, but there are coaches that are in the Marshall Athletics Hall of Fame too. And Ralph Street now checks both of those boxes. He hasn't been a head coach at Marshall, but damn if he isn't killing it at the defensive line coaching position breakdown. Decent defensive line position coach position. Yeah, his position. But he was great as a player. I think it's time. Who we need to talk to? Ralph Street on the ballot. Can we make that happen? Phil still ranking for the Herd defensive line unit. Russ, you ready for this?
I am.
Number 25 in the country. How about that? But here's where it gets really weird. Tied for second in the Sun Belt Conference, along with Troy. Phil Steele lists South Alabama as the number one defensive line unit in the SBC on the first page of the SBC section of teams in the back, towards the back of the book. Get this, though. At the beginning, where he has all the national rankings by position group, where Marshall is listed 25th, his number one South Alabama team is actually ranked nationally second. So Troy takes the top spot, number 20. South Alabama, number 24. Marshall, 25. James Madison, 26. And Southern Miss, 33. There is some legitimate defensive line units in the Sun Belt Conference. Looks like through the East, though, it's going to run between Huntington and Harrisonburg. Owen Porter is your preseason all Sun Belt Conference first team performer by Phil Steele and listed as the number 45 draft eligible defensive end. I think Owen's getting a little slighted there, in my opinion. I think the production will outweigh that. Some people may have better insight, and some folks might tell me that I'm absolutely insane, but I get a very TJ Watt vibe from Owen Porter at times. And I think that that's kind of what he may kind of potentially look like at the next level. And I know a lot of folks are Pittsburgh Steelers fans and are absolutely enamored with TJ Watt in this Huntington tri-state area. So you guys can let me know if I'm way off base or if I'm kind of on the right track with that assumption, but that's just kind of how he strikes me. Let's talk about the 2022 breakdown real quick. 38 sacks from this unit. We just talked about two guys that had 31 in 1987. Just 93 rush yards per game from this defense, which was 2.9 yards per carry, good enough for fifth in the NCAA last year. And best stat, did not allow a rushing touchdown to a running back until the 10th game of the season. If that doesn't spell stifling, I don't know what else does. That is an amazing stat that I did not know until preparing for this episode. Currently on the 2023 roster, Russ, there are a ton of defensive linemen. Of course, this is D tackles and defensive ends together. 18 currently listed on the 2023 updated Herd Zone roster. Now let's talk about the guys that exhausted eligibility, and there were some good ones. There were some really good ones. Starting off the list, you can't talk about this defensive line without talking about Kobe Cumberlander last year. Number 7 on the Herd in tackles, a very high motor, emotional guy that was just an absolute dog on the defensive line for a number of years. He exhausts eligibility along with one-year Herd player Anthony Watts, who was number 9 on the Herd or defense in tackles last year. Damian Barber, number 17. He had that pick 6 in the Myrtle Beach Bowl, if you'll remember. And Esaias Carpenter, who ranked number 21 on the Herd in tackles last year. So the Herd loses 4 of its top 20 tacklers from the defensive line alone. Also, not really exhausting eligibility, but didn't fall into the portal. Jordan Calamise, he retired from football, if you'll remember. Portal out, not very many guys. Gabe Elrod was a redshirt junior in 2022. He's out and commits to Limestone, which may be familiar to some Herd fans. Former Herd wide receivers coach Mike Fury is still the head coach at Limestone. Also, portal out, Emmanuel Bush was a junior in 2022, was number 20 on the Herd in tackles last year. He transferred to James Madison, so he's bolstering their defensive line. And then Emmanuel Balagoon, a junior also in 2022, transferred to Charlotte, was number 21 in the Herd. Well, tied, I guess, with 21 with Esaias Carpenter in tackles. So a fair amount of production from the defensive line was lost. You're talking about 6 guys all ranking in the top 21 on the team in tackles, but I think it's okay. Let's talk about this massive. Well, I mean, before we do portal in, let's talk about that. How about the guys exhausted eligibility and the guys that left in the portal for you?
I think it starts obviously with Cumberlander, and if there was a way that he could come back, I think Phil Steele's rankings would be drastically different. Just looking at replacing what he brought, a lot of people would say, well, they might have a down year until you start looking at what's coming in.
Yeah.
What's returning and what's coming in looks amazing. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we lost some big guys, we lost some productive guys, but I am also excited that. Well, let's just talk about it. So,
Let's
go
talk
ahead.
about it.
Yeah,
Well, before I get into that, I want to talk about Cumberlander just for a second, because
yeah,
you're right. He was a great player for a number of years for the Herd. A lot of folks are going to think back to that New Orleans Bowl when we played Louisiana and Willie Johnson got cheap shot, and it looked
yeah,
like Kobe Cumberlander was ready to go onto the field and rip human beings' heads off because of
yeah,
that cheap shot, and you can't blame him for that. And when I did the interview for the Thunder Trust with Owen Porter, he talked about Kobe leaving, exhausting eligibility. That was Owen's roommate last year, and he talked about the his game day and how they did the same thing, and he and Kobe had like a routine that they did not deviate from. And now this year, that's something different for Owen. He's going to have a new roommate. He's going to have a new experience there for this last go round. But he kind of jokingly said, I'm going to need him to come back to every game and just sit behind me and bark at me and yell at me and hype me up for the whole game, because that's what he was so great at, alongside his play, was just being that really vocal leader on this Herd defense. And that's not something that's often easily replaced, right? Those guys are really special pieces to a football team. So production aside, this is a huge piece that's now missing from this defensive line unit, is that vocal leadership. I'm sure guys have stepped up, right? Undoubtedly. But you've got to mention that stuff when you talk about guys like Kobe Cumberlander. But you're right. The guys that we've got coming in position this unit to be as productive, if not maybe a little bit more productive in certain areas than we were last year. So let's talk about them. Very, very active in the portal in category. I got seven defensive tackles and defensive ends that come in. Let's start with 6'6", 290-pound Chris Thomas. Freshman, comes in from the University of Florida. He was a 3-star prospect coming out of high school, number 57 defensive line prospect nationally when he was coming out of high school. In 21, he played one game and redshirted. In 22, he had one game as well, and then his portal comes to Huntington. 6'6", 290. Dang. I think you're going to really love that, and that's really a kind of a theme that we've got going here, so pay attention when we talk about some of these measurables, actually all of these measurables. 6'2", 317-pound Jaleel Riviera Harvey, a junior, comes over from Arizona State. 9 games in 2022 with 2 tackles. He was a junior college guy from East LA College before going to Arizona State. When he was coming out through that process, he was listed as the number 4 JUCO defensive line prospect prior to committing to Arizona State. 6'4", 241-pound Michael Green, redshirt freshman from the University of Virginia. 6 games in 2021, 4 tackles. Didn't really, I guess he redshirted in 2022 because there was no real information on him out there. Here's a cool thing, cool little blip, but I know you'll appreciate from his high school days, though. Second in the state of Virginia as a wrestler, state runner-up in his sophomore year. Third in his junior year, and I'm speculating because it doesn't say as a senior. Either he didn't wrestle or that was the COVID year and the season got canceled. Mm-hmm. So this guy is an amazing athlete, and as a matter of fact, some video has been posted of Mike Green in the weight room. Yeah. If you guys didn't see that, holy crap, this guy looks like a beast.
And that was on his birthday that got posted, that video was taken and posted. And then I also want to say on signing day, I joked and said that I was going to take his Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich from him, and he let me know that would be very bad for me. So I believed him. I think that he's an amazing specimen seeing him in person.
Yeah, this is a guy that, again, with that interview that I did for the Thunder Trust that you guys can listen to if you're an 1837 NIL Honors Club donor. You can go right now to the Thunder Trust website, log in, and listen to that interview. But these next 2 guys, Mike Green and the next guy I'm going to talk about, were 2 guys that Porter talked about specifically as how they could be instant impact players, and their physical stature was just a little mind-boggling. And when a guy like Owen Porter says that, who knows a thing or two about defensive line play, you should listen and you should pay attention because he's not blowing smoke, right? These guys are in the weight room together. They're seeing it firsthand. Nobody is really seeing it closer than their teammates and their coaches. So along that note, next coming to the herd, 6'3", 306-pound Kylan McCracken, a grad transfer. He's going to be a one-year guy, comes over from Ohio University. So he's going to be on the other side of the battle for the bell. Too bad those guys aren't on the schedule this year because that would be make for a nice matchup. 9 games in 2022 for the Bobcats, but 25 games over the course of his career in Ohio, 31 tackles in his career with 1 sack. Owen really was raving about this guy, like really raving and talking about how strong that he was and how he's going to be an instant attribute to this defensive line room. Next is 6'5", 257-pound Jabari Ishmael, redshirt sophomore from Miami, Florida, Miami University of Miami, whichever it is, in Florida, not Miami, the U. 1 game in 2021, redshirted in 2022. We talked about him during a signing day recap or whatever it was we did, some sort of recruiting recap. He was a 4-star prospect when he came out, number 197 in the ESPN top 300 nationally of all prospects. He was rated the number 20 defensive end coming out and the number 31 player in the state of Florida, and that, guys, is huge praise. He's the son of Miami strength and conditioning coach Victor Ishmael. Next, 6'4", 271-pound Joshua Valdez Alanis, a junior from Modesto Junior College, 8 games in 2022, notching 17 tackles and 2 sacks. Brandon McElroy, a freshman, another transfer from Arizona State, 6'5", 301, Russ. Also comes from the JUCO ranks into Arizona State and now to the herd. Didn't begin playing football. Get this, man. Did not begin playing football until joining the Glendale Community College football team. Then, in his very first ever season of competitive football, he notched 21 tackles in 2021, landing him on the All-Metro League team. This guy is as raw as they come, and if you're a piece of putty that Ralph Street can mold, man, oh man. If you are naturally gifted in the art of playing defensive line, you best believe that Ralph Street is going to get the absolute best out of you and mold you into the beast that you can truly become. Last thing we got to talk about before I let you recap some of that or give some thoughts on some of that, a couple of incoming freshmen in the class that made it to the roster. 6'3", 291-pound Benny Tashida from Louisville. He was a 3-star prospect. He was really, really early commit in the 23 class, if you remember, for the herd. He has huge, huge upside and a guy that I know that everybody is really excited about. A guy I was really excited about. That I thought he was a real steal of the class coming out of the state of Kentucky for the herd. And then lastly, 6'2", 399-pound McKaylin Warren from Tyrone, Georgia. Two-star prospect for the herd. Comes to Marshall with a teammate, of course, we talked about during the linebacker episode, Matthias Haygood. Russ, that is all the freaking movement on this defensive line unit. How about what we brought in and through the portal and these freshmen? Wow.
So seeing them in person after seeing the roster, but on Fans First Day, seeing them stand next to me, I'm no longer a huge guy. I'm 6'3", around 200, but I used to be a little bit bigger than that. And these guys are dwarfing me, and I was never as big as these guys. I never could, in my life, get to be as big as these guys. I'm not that athletically blessed. But also seeing them, how athletic they were because they were messing around kicking soccer toward a goal and having someone goaltend, and D-line was a big part of that, and seeing how athletic some of these guys were at the size that they're at. Quarterbacks, good luck.
I can't get past you, man. I just can't get past wow, because it's, first of all, we try to keep pretty good close tabs on the roster movement.
Yeah.
Still, I didn't realize that we brought in 7 from the portal. I knew the defensive line class, like the freshman class, was relatively small. I really only off the top of my head thought it was Tashida. But I found out that it was actually a couple of guys
Mhm.
Three really, but only two appear on the roster right now. So that's all we're really going to talk about.
I think there's a third one on
Well,
there.
there's more that were walk-ons, but this is just
Walk-ons, yeah,
scholarship guys,
yeah,
right? This is just the scholarship. There are a
yeah,
couple more guys that are on the roster, yes,
yeah.
but from the recruiting class to show up on the roster, only two of those made it. But
And a lot of the guys we brought in are young. They're not coming here for 1 year. I know we got the grad transfer
yeah,
that's coming here.
McCracken should be the only 1 year guy,
Yeah,
right?
everybody else, I mean, you're looking at, I mean, there's a junior every now and then, but you're looking at redshirt freshmen or redshirt sophomores. They've got some time to play, and they are big to be that young in the weight room and that young in their eligibility. And I just, if these guys stay here and all of them, I mean, look at what we're going to do in a few years.
Yeah. And the thing you really got to appreciate that we bring up often that really rears its head here when it's not that true freshman is those kids that have already been through the strength program for a year. Their bodies have already changed, right?
Yeah.
Like we've heard Huff talk about that before. So these guys put in the rough work of doing a wholesale change of their body, getting their body the right way at places like Ohio U, at Arizona State, right? At Miami. And now they're going to come in here transformed or already have been transformed to in more of a Division I football body and ready to compete here. So being that you've got 2-year guys, 3-year guys, maybe even some 4-year guys here, if you're right, if they stay, holy moly, man, the dynasty that's being built across the offensive line, it's pretty scary.
Defensive line.
Is that what I said?
You
Did I
said
say offensive line?
offensive.
Defensive line. You know what I mean.
You remember what Huff said about Mike Green as well, that the Virginia coach has said that he was the best athlete that they had on the team and maybe the best player or whatever. Obviously potential. It wasn't like, because of his stats or whatever that he had. And he said, I hope he can do that here.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, stats don't tell the story, right?
They
He's
don't.
buried on the depth chart,
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean you're not the best athlete on the team.
That's right. And look at McCracken. I can't tell you what that, if Owen Porter's saying that guy, as strong as he is and as big as he is going to make an instant impact. I don't care what he did at Ohio. It's Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what they did. Maybe they didn't utilize him as well. Maybe they didn't say, hey, we need you to go get in the backfield. Maybe they just said, we just going to plug you up as a nose tackle and make you be a run stopper.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about the stats, but even less on defensive line. It's not about the recordable stats. It's not about how many tackles you have. It's controlling that line of scrimmage. And these guys seem like they're going to do it as well or better than we did last year, which was amazingly well, top 10 in the country.
That's right. And a couple of points I want to talk about. Right? You say, well, some of these guys, they have like literally no stats at their other stops. Well, look at guys that we just got last year. Anthony Watts didn't have a huge stat line coming out of Purdue, but he came in here and he was a mega impactful player.
Mm-hmm.
And Damian Barber was the same way. Super impactful player. Gibby, who's still on the roster. We haven't even talked about because he was a returning player. Gibby was a massively impactful player for the Herd, but these guys didn't have stat lines at their previous stops that made you go, wow, instant impact guy. But were all three of those instant impact players? Yes, 100%. They were. Yeah. Yes, they were.
We were, I mean, if we go back and listen to that episode from last year about how much we were praising, talking about the violent and disruptive that Coach had nicknamed them, talking about the sheer size that we're bringing in, and we had just talked, and under our previous defensive scheme under Doc and the defenses that he had, they kind of took that linebacker, the outside linebacker, and dropped him down to defensive end to be faster, smaller and faster. Then that defensive end went on the interior, smaller and faster. The safeties became those outside linebackers, smaller and faster. Huff came in and said, size. There's a certain archetype that we're looking for on these different positions. And here's where it is. I have not seen a roster with this much size. I mean, you look at some of the big P5 that we don't like to name. This looks like a P5 defensive line roster. I mean, it's insane the depth and the size and the talent that we have amassed at this position.
Well, in fairness, if these are the monikers that you want to use, I know that's not what you particularly want to use, but
Right.
University of Florida,
Right.
Arizona State, Virginia,
Miami.
Miami, right? So it is a Power 5 defensive line, and it's not even taking into account the guys that are already here and already productive. Owen Porter is our guy. He's our
Yep.
guy. He ain't coming from nowhere else. Gibby
Yep.
was from Kentucky, right?
Mhm.
So these guys, while previous administration said, let's get smaller and faster, Huff said, well, let's just get bigger and faster. Why do
Yeah.
we have to get smaller? We
Yeah.
can move just as much and just take up more space. And that is a differentiator on our football team, potentially unlike any other position group, right? Because
Yeah.
the defensive line wreaks more havoc than just about anything. Disruptive is the best word to describe them.
It's going to be hard to run against us, and again, I'm looking that we might do better in the tackles for loss and sacks than we did last year.
Well, God, it's okay. So you do get past the defensive line. Well, there's Eli Neal waiting to knock you
Yeah.
flat on your ass. So what are we doing here, right?
Yeah.
So this is setting up on paper, right? Because we haven't played games, right?
Mhm.
But it gets the juices flowing when you start looking at how things might get laid out on paper. So into that, let's talk about some projected starters, right? Really, this is pretty fluid on some of these because depends on what you want to do that week, but. Owen Porter is 1,000% bona fide, legitimately 100%, 1,000,000% the only guy that I know will be starting every play of every game so long as he possibly can, right? And we have a good idea of who we think others will be, but it's so fluid, they're so deep. So we're going to go with 4 as quote unquote projected starters. And then we're going to get into those heavy contributors again. So, of course, give me 6'3", 235-pound defensive end Owen freaking Porter, the outlaw, the senior, the number 4 tackler for the Herd last year from a defensive end position, number 1 on the defensive line, first team All Sun Belt Conference in 2022, played 13 games. Stat line's pretty damn great. 60 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, which was number 1 on the team, 9.5 sacks, which was number 1 on the team, 1 interception, 2 pass breakups, 9 quarterback hurries, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble return that resulted in a touchdown. And he, by his own account, says he missed anywhere between 12 to 15 more sacks that he should have had and could have had. And if that doesn't get you flowing with the right juices, bro, you don't care about Herd football. That is amazing. Along the interior defensive line, let's give the nod to 6'2", 300-pound defensive lineman Tyquez Legs, the redshirt junior. 24 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, but a injury-shortened season. Remember, he missed the first 6 games of the year last year. Didn't start, I think, until James Madison maybe. So limited season, but still pretty good production. If you extrapolate that out over the course of a season, you're looking at 50 tackles-ish from a defensive line position. And a guy we're going to move right into, 6'4", 312-pound Isaiah Gibson, the redshirt junior who was a super impactful player for the Herd last year. 11 tackles, 4 quarterback hurries in 2022 through 13 games, but he did start 6 times. So it's so much not about the stat line. I write it down because that's what people want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a guy watching the film and you're paying attention to defensive line play, you're wondering how are they manipulating the line of scrimmage, and that's what these guys do. Now, let's give the nod to the freak, the phenom potentially at the other defensive end spot, 6'4", 241-pound Michael Green, the redshirt freshman transfer from UVA, the guy that's absolutely a freak of nature physically with all the raw talents that you want. A spring and a summer of Ralph Street, game planning, being that he has the luxury, anybody has the luxury of lining up on the opposite edge of Owen Porter is going to have an easier path to success because of what Owen Porter demands that you account for. But I like this move, man. I like giving the nod to Green. Now, could it just as easily be my defensive end 2A, Sam Burton? Absolutely, because Sam, 6 foot, 253-pound senior, the number 11 tackler on the Herd, 35 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, a half a sack, 7 quarterback hurries, and a forced fumble in 12 games. Those guys, to me, it could go either way. But I like the idea of that athleticism that has been touted for Mike Green. Russ, before we get into anybody else, what do you think about these projected starters on my end?
It's hard to argue for and against them because, like you said, we're so deep. And I think that starters might not be the people that get the majority of the snaps. It might be, you know, later in the game it goes to somebody that wasn't the starter. I think that we easily have 2 4 deep that can go, and Porter would be out there the majority of the time unless there's some kind of injury or you just want to keep him off there because the game's out of reach and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But easily I can see us. And how bad is that going to be for running backs that they've been getting beat up by these guys? And we say, let's bring 4 fresh guys in that could easily be our starters.
Well, who did I hear talk about that? I can't remember if it was Owen or if it was somebody else. I don't think it was Huff, but they were talking about the ability to do like a hockey line change.
Yeah.
Just an all new line goes in and 4 fresh guys working against tired offensive linemen on play 7 or 8 of a drive.
Yeah.
And a tired running back. Boy, what a luxury. But anyway, I didn't want to cut you off there, but you were making that point, and I had heard that from someone. I just can't remember who it was, but what an unbelievable luxury to do that. I think we go 8, 9, potentially 10 deep along the defensive line, but wow. We got to talk about some other heavy contributors I mentioned and / potential starters, right? Because we don't know during the ebbs and flow of a game who's catching fire, who's in the zone, who's struggling against a certain block. We don't know, right? So all these guys can kind of fall in that same category. I mentioned Sam Burton. How about 6'2", 256-pound Elijah Alston, the redshirt junior? 22 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, and 2 pass breakups, 7 quarterback hurries, and a fumble recovery in 12 games for the Herd. Also a very productive player for Marshall. Then we get into some of the younger guys and transfers, but I still think we see Kylan McCracken, the 1-year guy, in a relatively high rotational, role, if not starting a game here and there. 6'3", 306, and then a guy that dazzled in the spring game, Russ. Got on the radar for a lot of Herd fans, and I'm going to bring this name back to you because I know you remember, and that's 6'6", 228-pound Elijah Russell, the redshirt freshman. He was kind of everywhere for a lot of people in that green and white game. So how about those, we talked about Burton, but how about Alston and McCracken and Russell for you?
I do think McCracken, with his size and strength and rubber stamp from Owen Porter, I think he is going to do a lot of damage interior line. Coach Huff mentioned Russell as one of his 2 on the defensive line that had really transformed their bodies, and his was putting on weight and muscle. He said, he looked like a string bean when he first came here or something, because he's extremely tall. So he was tall and lanky and everything. Doesn't mean that he wasn't athletically gifted. He just needed to have some more weight, and he's put on weight and transformed himself in the weight room this offseason. Gibson was the other, and it was talking about how, he had lost so much weight over the course of the season because of just what he was doing,
Yeah.
But those guys, I mean, again, plug those in. You need somebody that's 6'6", 228 on the end coming around. Reminds me of Paul Toviesi. Slightly different build or whatever, but he was that tall, lankier kind of build and everything. So I don't know, man. I could talk for an hour, like we were talking about the Sun Belt speculation. I could talk for an hour about these guys and what they could potentially do, and I think the potential is unlimited.
Yeah, Elijah Russell, for me particularly, is a guy that I really see playing that, getting a lot of reps late in games when Marshall has a sizable lead. The game is definitely out of reach for an opponent, and you get to get this guy in to get game reps and game speed action to hone his craft and that edge rushing technique of his, that it'll pay big dividends for you potentially late in the season or early next season. I really like the aspect of Russell and Mike Green. I mean, you guys, you might be looking at the next 2 great edge rushing duo 2-3 years from now. right? Because they're both really young guys and they're both unbelievably athletic and their measurables are off the charts. Now, there's a lot of guys that are going to be looking to make their first impact for the herd this year, and most of those are these transfers that were younger guys, so we're not going to get into all their stats again, but I'm just going to remind you where they came from. Of course, it's 6'6", 290-pound Chris Thomas from the University of Florida.
And he's actually listed as 308 now.
Oh, okay.
That's when he transferred in, so he's put on 18 pounds since he got here.
6'6", 3 bills plus.
Yeah.
Might see him more often than not.
Yeah.
6'2", 317-pound Jalil Riviera Henry from Arizona, or Harvey from Arizona State, and then Brandon McElroy, 6'5", 301, also from Arizona State. 6'5", 257, Jabari Ishmael from Miami, Florida. 6'4", 271, Joshua Valdez Alanis from Modesto, JC. And then some guys that were a guy that was on the roster last year, actually had a little bit of production for the herd. That's 6'3", 297-pound Jabarick Hopkins, redshirt freshman. He appeared in 3 games for the herd in 2022. He had 1 tackle. That tackle was a tackle for loss, and that tackle for loss was a sack. So he made the most of his limited opportunities there. And then you've got some relative newcomers and then guys that are really, really looking to kind of get that first real meaningful action. Of course, we talked about Benny Tashida, 6'3", 291. McCallum Warren, 6'2", 399. And then a guy that was on the roster last year, 6'3", 214-pound Joe Murray from Huntington High School. And then a guy that I didn't know until I was checking out the roster. I'm intrigued by this for a couple of reasons. 6'6", 234-pound Braden Ward. Okay, I don't know anything about this guy, but according to the Herd Zone roster, he's from Montgomery, West Virginia, which is up in my neck of the woods. That's 8 miles from my hometown. He went to Riverside High School, which is what my high school turned into. It's where my cousins went to high school, so I'm really familiar with that area, but I did not hear about Braden Ward, right? Mm-hmm. Come to find out, he was a 3-sport all-state athlete in the state of West Virginia: football, basketball, and track. So I don't know what this all means, but I will tell you this. I have a guy that I'm going to be paying particular attention to as a true freshman coming from my neck of the woods in the state of West Virginia. Mr. Ward, if you're listening, you got a fan here, and I'm really excited to watch the trajectory of your career, because not too many come from that Riverside High School here. I think the last one we had might have been Raheem Waiters several years ago. So I like it, man. Somebody from my neck of the woods getting a shot here with the herd. I'm all in for that. So, Russ, what about all these other guys on this roster just to fill it out?
I'm just going to repeat myself, you know, about the depth and the size. And I mean, the pure potential that these guys have with their size and their strength, and seeing them in person to see that this size does translate from paper to, I'm still in awe of how big these guys are and the shape that they're in. Again, good luck running backs. Good luck. Yeah. Good luck, everybody.
Yeah, you're all going to need it. And this is not a slight to your players.
So KD, you and I were talking, and this has been about a week ago, and we said, we probably ought to bring it up on the show. They had Violent and Disruptive was christened to them by Coach Huff last year. And when I was looking at this, and you and I were talking weeks ago before we were trying to do a breakdown on this, I said, forget the 1927 Yankees and other teams. I said, this is Murderer's Row right here. Yeah. Because the term came up of who do you want to face, if you walk this person or walk that. So what do you do here when you say, well, we got this guy, he's tired and he's out, and then you bring in 6'2", 399 pound, whatever it is. This is a modern day Murderer's Row, famous sports term for teams over the years or position groups over the years. I think we've got it right here.
Yeah, and if you're just like, I've never heard of that before, go Google the freaking Yankees. Was it 27? Isn't that what
1927
it was?
Yankees.
Go Google the lineup for the 1927 New York Yankees right now and look, and you'll understand, like, geez, there's not a weak spot in that lineup. Yeah. Who do you want to face if you're a pitcher? This is that recipe, but it's on a herd defensive line. right? Who do you game plan against? Who's the weak link? Find it. I dare you to find it. I'm not sure that you can. And again, this is not a knock on anybody's players, any opponent's players. You have fine players, but we have really fine defensive linemen that are going to wreck some absolute shop this year. And there ain't a herd fan in the land that ain't here for it. Russ, let's talk about strengths and weaknesses. What's your number one overall strength for this unit?
Size.
I would never have guessed.
And I mean, we've ran over the roster and their height and weight. We don't need to, but just go look at the size.
I'll tell you what I should have done was I should have went through and did an average height and weight of all 18 of these guys. And just for curiosity's sake, see what it was.
I can do it for you right now. Tall, huge.
Yeah, there strong. That's not a size, but that's a thing. My number one overall strength of this unit is Owen Porter returned. I mean, that we were all on pins and needles, and he was so lighthearted about it when we spoke. I mean, he was like, I didn't know I was supposed to put something out, because I didn't say that I wasn't coming back. But you know how fans are.
Right.
It was like, oh, God, he's getting, courted by all these other schools. He's going to hit the portal. And you listen to the guy. Let me tell you what, Owen Porter is turning into a real-time legend of herd football, because he tells you, I don't want to be anywhere else. I want to be a Marshall. I want to be in West Virginia. This is where I love being.
Oh, you remember what the chatter was? He's going to Ohio State and they're offering him whatever. And, I mean, where do things like that materialize? And everybody says, well, my cousin's roommate's brother knows the uncle that he went to shop class with. Doesn't matter, man. Listening to that guy, you said it. He wants to be right here.
He said it.
Yeah. He wants to be here, and he wants to be that legend here, I think. He's a local kid. He's always going to have that aura about him as the guy that came here and didn't leave and wrecked shop while he was
right. That's right. And that's a dying thing, right? It's a guy that was recruited here, stayed here, had opportunities to go elsewhere.
There's a coaching change in the middle, Right. I mean, there's opportunities to change. And he didn't. He stayed here, and everyone loves him for it.
He's performed at an extremely high level. His growth and development year over year has just been – there's never been a plateau, and there's never been a dip. He's just gotten better and better and better and better. And let's not forget, he lined up at freaking fullback last year on many of an occasion, and that is just something that you can't help but smile and get excited about that when a guy who's a true throwback player – I told him, you look like you would have fit right in with the guys in the 90s, because he wears the crop top shirt and the whole attitude and everything. And I think of all the things we talked about, that's what made him like the happiest, because he said, that's high praise around here. Knowing that you could line up with guys from the 90s, that means a lot, because they still know who those guys are, and they still watch those films, and they know who hold those records. And, some of those guys still come around to the program and share stories and talk. And it means a lot to these guys. Don't think it doesn't. And he really lit up when I told him that. And I meant that. That wasn't me blowing smoke, because he looks like he could have lined up in 1997, 1998, 99 and just played defensive end. He fits that mold. So number one overall strength, without a doubt, was that Owen Porter said, I'm coming back, even though he was never leaving. What's your number two strength for this unit?
Depth. And again, we've talked about it so much, there's no need to talk about it again. But if you can do that hockey substitution like you were talking about, if you can run 8 to 12 deep and keep putting athlete after athlete and strong after strong in there to just dominate guys that are tiring on that offensive line, our depth is amazing right now.
Yeah, it certainly is. And that's the number two strength for me too. We did not rebuild. We absolutely reloaded. We may have actually upgraded. Like I said, in some statistics, like maybe the pass rush is a little bit faster this year. Maybe the run stoppability is a little bit better this year. We don't really know until we start to see it play on the field. But man, when you start looking at some of these things, the overall depth just is undeniable. It's undeniable. This is probably the most deep position that I can think of right now. We feel really good about a lot of our positions, especially on the defensive backfield and things like that. But man, it feels like you could lose 2 or 3 guys and not miss a beat at all with the overall depth. This is really something special that I think we're onto here. What's your number 3 strength for this unit if you have one?
Athleticism. We talk about size, we talk about athleticism. That's not always the same, but you called him a freak earlier, Mike
Mhm.
Green, and go look at that video on what he's doing at the size that he's at. Look at the build on these guys, the height that they have, and they're still doing this athletic stuff. I'm going to tell you, I'll throw his name out there because I don't have permission to, but on fans' first day, Legs was playing soccer goalie against this thing that they had set up and everything, and the other guys were kicking. And he's an amazing athlete. And I told him, I said, "You were doing work out there, and he was. And so then they go over and they start playing a pickup hoops game on a volleyball. They had a ring set up with a net on it to where you could do a set to see if you could get it into the net. And they decided to play, and my man is out there throwing left hand over the shoulder alley oops to somebody on the spot, and then he's dunking on top of somebody on the next possession. He's an athlete, and we've got a lot of those up and down this roster on the defensive line.
Yeah, my number 3 overall strength, which I'm in full agreement with you, is the instant impact is abundant on this roster right now. Not even taking into account the guys that are returning, the Porters, the Gibbies, the Legs, the Burtons, right? But the other guys, the instant impact guys, it is unbelievably abundant. The run stopping and the pass rush at season's end should be, I won't say easily be, but should be the best in the Sun Belt Conference. No knock on Troy, no knock on James Madison, no knock on South Alabama. I'm just not sure they go as deep as we go, right? They might, but we don't follow them closely. It's hard for me to imagine that they go 10 deep like we do.
Mm-hmm.
Weaknesses, Russ. What's your number 1 weakness for this unit?
Replacing production from Kobe Cumberlander. We've got all the potential in the world to do so, but so far we haven't. And until we do so, that's a weakness. It's one of those things we talk about all the time. It's a weakness just because we haven't seen it. So somebody's got to have that production, but somebody's also got to have that leadership. I think that Owen Porter's right there, but it's just a different type of leadership with him than it was with Cumberlander. Cumberlander was vocal. Owen Porter himself said he's the guy that was doing it.
Yep.
So replacing him, I think, is going to be one of those unseen things to watch for, is who's really going to step up in this position room to be the guy, not just from production, but getting everyone else hyped and everyone else where they need to be.
Yeah, that is legitimately my only weakness as well, is replacing the vocal leadership on the line. We all know that Owen Porter is the silent assassin. He just prefers to go out there and handle his freaking business and not hoot and holler about it. He might talk a little crap to the guy he just smashed across the turf, but that's different, right? You need that Kobe Cumberlander type attitude to get the guys always going, staying engaged in the game, right? So who will be that guy? I couldn't tell you. Could be Burton, could be Legs, could be Gibby. But somebody's got to rise to that occasion and be that leader. But they also have to perform at a high level.
Mm-hmm.
You can be a rah-rah guy, but if you can't do the work, I'm not sure how much your message, gets driven home. So that to me is really the only weakness, and I don't see that much of a weakness. If you just got a team full of silent guys that like to go out there and make waves, then who needs to hoot and holler? They're all just intrinsically motivated and internally motivated to go give them hell. So, who are you most excited to see for 2023 from this unit?
Owen Porter's swan song to come back. Local kid. We talked about this for other positions on getting to come back with Micah Abraham and things like that. But Porter being that local kid from here, just what I said earlier about becoming a legend. I cannot wait to see the cap off to his career.
Yeah, I hate to use words like that whenever we haven't even started the season. But it doesn't, it is what it is. You can't not say it just because you don't want to feel like you're jinxing something, right? And that's not what I'm saying. But like, the guy is, in the era of college football we have, the guy is rarefied now. He's going to play, 5 or 6 years here? And He's just been so productive. He's been an all-conference performer over and over. The greatest celebration in college football. We've gone an hour and 43 minutes into this episode, and we have not mentioned his celebration until now. So it just all adds up, the throwback vibe that Marshall fans love. It doesn't get any better than Owen Porter in that final season for the Herd. And if he is able to go out and come close to, tie, or break that single season sack record like he wants to do, that's it. He's a no doubt first ballot Marshall Athletics Hall of Famer. He may already be anyway 10 years from now. If he goes out and plays one game, doesn't matter. I think he's made a case already. This is just that cream on the Sunday. So I'm absolutely excited to see the senior campaign of Owen Porter. Who's the biggest loss for you?
Cumberlander. We already said why. Production and leadership.
Yep, I'm with you. It's Kobe Cumberlander too. I hope to see him back at every Herd game this fall.
And rocking that amazing hat and beard combo that he has. I can't believe we've gone this long to talk without bringing that up as well.
If you're listening, if you happen to catch this episode, Kobe, find us in the C lot. Come and hang out. Let's talk Herd ball. We'd love to get you on a ThunderCast live and talk about what you're seeing from this Herd defensive line as well as we head into the season. Who's your breakout player for 2023?
Mike Green.
Mike Green. I'm with you, man. I think, man, we're you copied my paper today. I can't get past what I've seen, and not just Owen, but everybody else that's raved about Mike Green, coaches, other players, everything you see. It's just like this is the guy that could be the guy for the next couple of years. Who's your MVP when it's all said and done?
Owen Porter. If he does anywhere remotely close to what his goals are, personal goals he set for himself, ain't nobody touching him. If they do, oh my God, they deserve it.
We've got 1987 all over again if that's what we have happen this year.
Yeah.
What an amazingly in-depth defensive line breakdown this week. What a great position group to get the breakdown series kicked back off again. Russ, do you have any final words before I put you on the spot for one question?
I've got some things before we close out, but not about defensive line.
All right, so I'm going to put you on the spot for one question.
Right.
Does Owen Porter win the SBC Defensive Player of the Year? Yes or no?
Yes, and I think that people are going to realize that it's not just about some stats of assisted tackles and things like that. And I'm not putting anything against Carlton Marshall. Hell of a player. We've sung his praises all season long, as much as fans of an opposing team can. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Henderson over at ODU. Amazing stats and everything. But just absolute impact on a game is not always tackles and assisted tackles and things. Those are extremely important. But we're talking about taking over games and just dominating and just saying momentum is switched. And that is what Owen Porter did last year. And if he's going to do more of the same this year with the respect that he already has coming into it and already being on that short list, I think he does.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. I've said many, many, many times he should be on the short list, the shortest of short lists for Defensive Player of the Year candidates already. And if he has anything like the season we saw a year ago, he's going to make his case. And you can't go wrong giving it to the guy. All right, so next week is the final position group in the breakdown series. And, of course, it's quarterbacks. There's been a lot of debate amongst the fan base, and they all feel how they want to feel. We're going to give you all the stats on everybody that's on the roster next week and dive into that quarterback room. It's going to be a great one. You do not want to miss that. Russ, if you've got some final words, let's start to have them.
Yeah, so a friend of the podcast, a friend of the ThunderCast, Karen LeGrand, we've mentioned her on here before, talked to me about a conversation that she had with a player, and I'm going to leave that player's name out of it because I didn't talk to them to get confirmation, bring it up. But Karen asked this player of what they would like to see in the stands. If it would be pom-poms, if it would be cowbells, artificial noisemakers, can't have that. The answer was bring 10 of your friends. So, people in the stands is the number one thing that these players want to see. It's not that you're bringing pom poms. It's not that you're bringing any kind of thunder sticks that we had in the past. It's not anything like that at all. It's not anything more than packing that damn stadium as much as you can. Be there, be loud, bring people with you. They are going to feed off that. They're telling you right now, this is what they're going to feed off of. This is what they want. This is what's going to take them to the next level in performing. And it's us fans.
I am going to echo that, and I'm giving so much away from this interview that when I talked to Owen, but he said there's no better feeling than walking out of that tunnel and seeing a packed Joan C. Edwards Stadium, and when they're loud and they're engaged, those guys feed off of that. And if you think they don't, you're mistaken, because I heard it firsthand from one of the most impactful players that we've had at Marshall. Period. Right? And he said when they're there late in the games, it matters. It matters. We want the place to stay full for all 4 quarters. And I'd like to remind you now that Marshall's not going to have there's a no pass out policy. So if you leave at halftime, you're not getting back in.
That's next year. I've confirmed.
Okay.
This year you can still go out and come back in.
Well, we don't want to do that anyway. So honor what these guys are asking. If you're going to the game, make plans to bring 3-4 friends with you, right? Why not call 3 buddies up and say, hey, you guys want to get a family pack together and we'll get season tickets and we'll go for $100 and we'll, make it your thing this fall, right? Get excited. Watch these guys and some of these seniors, Dalton Tucker and Abraham and Porter and all these guys go out, trying to bring a championship back to Huntington. Don't play wait and see.
Yeah.
Go and see. Go watch it live and stay.
Tickets are on sale right now. You can get a mini plan if you can't be here for all 6 games. If you can't be here for all 6 games, still get the family plan with 3 of your friends like you're talking about, or your family. $396, $99 a piece gets you all 6 games. If you're listening right now and you say, man, I really hope to go to some games this year, and you definitely go to Virginia Tech and you definitely go to homecoming and you pick one more, you're already at $99 right there.
Mm-hmm.
So get them for all 6 games. If you can't be there, get somebody else to use your tickets.
Yep.
Right now, call up 1-800-THE-HERD. Get on Herd Zone. Get on the app. Call Ryan Crisp. Whatever it takes. Get tickets. Be there. Be loud. The fans want it. The players want it. If you're on the fence, get it right now. It's going to do nothing but help the university, and I guarantee you, if they're doing all the stuff that they want for fan engagement and all the things that they want, we didn't even talk about the stuff that they're going to do during the game and how they're going to have the fans dictate as the season goes along what they want to change about the game day experience. Go to these games this year.
If you haven't been in a long time, or you do go, remember, it's a new look Joan C. Edwards Stadium. No more end zone bleachers drowning out the "We Are Marshall" chant. That's a minimized thing now. That's the lower bleachers only that's going to be there. So brand new video boards. You're going to be able to look over and to the other sideline, and it's going to be fuller because people aren't going to be mattered around in the end zone, and you're going to get that that Marshall that you remember so vividly from 20, 30 years ago, that really made you feel good, and it was really an impactful thing at a Herd football game. So we're going to be louder. The environment is going to be more fan friendly. There's going to be a little bit more room to spread out. The 4 high top tables that they've added as a different viewing experience also. It's just a great time. It's just really a great time to get yourself to Joan C. Edwards Stadium. They're making tickets really easy and to afford and really easy to obtain. So there's really just no reason not to give it a go. And if you've been burned in the past, we talked about this before. It's a new day, guys. Give them a chance to do right by you, because I bet you they will.
And you brought up something about the We Are and Marshall, and that was covered by Ryan Crisp in that episode too. Anytime the fans start "We Are Marshall," start that chant, they said they're going to stop anything that they're doing, and they're going to get the "We Are Marshall" chant going as loud, because that is our identity. That is who we are, and that takes precedent over anything. He brought up, how often have we heard over the years, well, the band's trying to play while we're trying to do this, and the PA's doing this, and then "We Are Marshall's trying to. He said no matter at what point, they have marching orders everywhere that if We Are Marshall is going, that's the thing. That's what they're doing. So, again, it's going to be exciting.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. All right. Do you have any other final words before we get out of here? If not, take us out.
No, whether you see us at the Joan, whether you see us at the Cam, whether you see us at the Vet, coming up Wednesday at 6 p.m. for the very first Fans First game with women's soccer. No matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, go Herd.
Go Herd. It's the ThunderCast. Remember, quarterback breakdown next week. Week after that, it's the season preview. It's the ThunderCast. Later.